start in a couple of minutes. Let's wait for a few people to join. Hi Max, hi Joyce. Okay, well it's 3 o'clock. So for those watching in my Facebook group, I'm participating in a sew and swap, and we're doing heart-shaped oven mitts, and I thought it would be fun to make my own design, and then thought I would share it so that more people can enjoy it. So I've made 2 different designs. You can get the paisley design for the front, which has diamond, I don't know if you can see it, kind of diamond quilting on the back. And then there's the one with the diamond quilting on the front, as well as the back. So you can make coordinating pairs. So I've made this one with the paisley on the front, and today I'm going to be making the coordinating one with the diamond quilting. You can see it a bit better on that one, on the front. So an important thing to note when making things like oven mitts, anything that's going to be getting hot, is to make sure that you use basically fabrics that won't melt. Anything polyester, if it gets too hot, it's going to melt. Not only will it damage the product, but it can actually stick to your skin and it can be really dangerous and icky. So make sure you use heat-proof materials. So I'm actually going to be, oh, let me see. Oh, thank you, Bridget. Yes, this is going to be fun. This is actually my first sewing Facebook Live. I've done other Facebook Lives, but never done a sewing one, so it should be fun. Hi, Linda. Just welcome. Watch away. Maybe you'll get an embroidery machine. They're lots of fun. Okay, so I've actually embroidered this using cotton thread. I'm actually using Gutermann cotton sewing thread, because everything in the design is just straight stitch. There's no fill stitches or anything funny, no bulk. So you can actually use just regular cotton sewing thread. I've not researched this, but someone did suggest you could use rayon because it comes from plant materials, but I don't know if it's safe or not, so you would need to look that up. For the fabrics themselves, I'm using quilting cotton, so 100% cottons, and I'm not using a heavy weight. And then I'm using, I can't actually remember which one this is, but I think this is Wrap and Zap that I'm using. There's also a few other ones that you can use. Another person suggested using curtain bump, because 100% cotton curtain bump, that could work as well. I'm only using 1 layer because I found if I use more than 1 layer, I get lots of skip stitches. So I wouldn't use these to take a big ceramic casserole out the oven or something. I don't think it would be thick enough to stand up to that, but it's great for just taking a pan of cookies out the oven, that kind of thing. Something that's not too heavy and you're not going to be holding for too long. I would use them for that. So yeah, that's the batting. So I've cut all my pieces. Oh, talk about the ribbon as well. In the instructions I refer to it as a ribbon because it's just easier. But again, I've used, it's actually a cotton, I think it's called twill tape. On the very first one I made, I used satin ribbon, but that's obviously going to melt. So I probably won't use those for anything serious. But yeah, that's I think it's 3/8 of an inch wide, and that's absolutely perfect. It's about 10 millimeters. So I've cut my fabrics. I've got 2 pieces of quilting cotton cut to 8 by 8.5 inches. It's 8 that way, 8.5 that way. And then just one piece of the wadding or batting, the cotton wadding, which is also 8 by 8.5. Then I've got 2 pieces of the wadding which are cut to 4 inch by 7 inch. And then I've got 2 more pieces of cotton which are cut to 8 inch by 7 inch. And then these are folded in half. I haven't pressed them. I've just kind of finger pressed them so they stay in half, and they should be 7 inches by 4 inches when folded. So they'll be the same size as that wadding. Okay, those are for the front. And the big ones are for the back. Then I'm also using wash away stabilizer, because you can actually see the back. If I pull this inside out, you can actually see the back of the embroidery on the inside of the mitt. So I've used wash away stabilizer, so that will go away and won't cause problems. You can use a good quality cutaway or something like that if you don't mind leaving it on the inside, but I prefer to use a wash away because then I wash it and it's gone. I don't suggest using tearaways for these kind of projects because some of it gets inside the main area, and when you wash it, it gets all like wadded up and unpleasant. So either use a good quality cutaway or a wash away. Okay, so I've got my fancy mat that I've, hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Turn that camera just slightly. Okay. So I'm gonna just hoop my stabilizer. Now the one I've got is only kind of just wide enough for this hoop. I'm quite happy to use it that way. I haven't had any problems. And I've got it in the scoop. Let me take it down here so I can just hoop that. And then what I do, just to make sure that the, you can see there's not very much stabilizer there, is I just use the pin method. So I just stick it through the stabilizer right on top of the frame and take it back and forth a few times, and that just stops the stabilizer from being able to pull down through the hoop. Let's make sure I go right along the top of that hoop. I don't think I would trust this with a very dense design, but this isn't terribly dense, so it doesn't pull on the stabilizer too terribly. Okay. Right, so I've loaded up the back of the mitt. You've got to do that first. This takes 2 hoopings. You make the back, cut that out, and then you do the front, and then obviously the back gets added on. And I'm going to do the first couple of steps in a nice dark color so that you guys can see it, because I'm going to be doing the quilting in white, which you'll be able to see on the red fabric, but you won't see it on the white stabilizer. Okay. At this stage, I'm not going to worry about pulling my bobbin through. Okay. Oh, maybe I will keep the back neat. Okay, so this is going to do the first heart outline. So I try to keep the backs of these kind of projects as neat as possible. This line will get cut off, so a little bit that's got caught there doesn't matter. But I trim the back each time just to keep it nice and neat. Right, then we're going to lay our batting on. Just make sure it covers that hard there we go. Make sure it really covers that heart completely. The quilting does pull it in a little bit, so you want to make sure it does definitely overlap, not just up to the line, because you might end up with a gap later. And then the fabric goes on top. Again, I'm just going to check to make sure it's overlapping well. I'll bring it down a bit. Okay, and then I'll use some masking tape just to hold it in place. I'm going to put it right on the edge so that we can try and minimize how much tape gets under the needle. Oops, actually I might do it in the corner. Okay, so you can see on the back, it's a good place to check. It's nicely covered completely. Okay, and I'm going to pull my bobbin through to the top again. Oh, I will want to change my thread because it's going to do the quilting now. Which software program do you use? I use 2 different software programs. This particular one I actually did in Embroidery. I actually do a lot of my artistic drawing. I actually do it in Affinity Designer. And then I export the SVG, and Embroidery actually allows you. Why is my machine not reading? So yeah, I do a lot of my artistic stuff in a vector designer, and then I import the SVG into Embroidery. And then it actually allows you to assign stitches to the SVG lines rather than some of the softwares that you have to basically redraw it again in the software. So I can be busy with my iPad and pencil, and I can just draw whenever I kind of have the inclination to do so, which is quite nice. Right, so now it's going to do the, put the wrong colour in. because the other one I did in red. Got red on the brain. And to be fair, the machine does tell me to use red, so. Okay, I'm just going to take it back to the beginning. Trim the... I'm not going to worry about unpicking that because you won't even see it. It's red on red. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, I have to say, I got Embroidery, I think in October, and I've been really enjoying it. It's a really good piece of software. I'd love to try the Wilcom, I think it's called Hatch, but I'm a Mac user, and I like to just try and stick to software that's native to my Mac. So maybe one day. Hi Marjorie. So I do find sometimes when embroidering through the batting that I get the odd skip stitch. When I try and do the double layer, the only way I can get it to work is I actually use a universal needle. I think it's I can't remember what size, I think it's a size 12. And I slow my machine down right to its slowest, and then it embroiders just fine. But it takes a really long time, so yeah, I wouldn't use something like this for something that's going to be really hot anyway, because you want your hand completely covered. So I'm happy to use just one layer and get the embroidery. This is the longest stage, I think, in the whole thing. Show Bridget, I'll tell you all that as soon as this is stopped. It's quite noisy. So now I'm going to trim the batting away to leave about a 5mm seam allowance. So while I'm doing that, I'll tell you about my machine. This is a Husqvarna Epic 2. It's the big mama of Husqvarna's. It would be roughly equivalent to a Brother Luminaire. I think the Brother Luminaire is actually just slightly more expensive. And I think it has a camera and stuff. This machine doesn't have a camera, but it has an app that you can do design positioning with. And I actually quilt my quilts. I do edge-to-edge quilting on my machine in the hoop, which is really cool. I did a king-sized, it actually wasn't even edge-to-edge, it was block by block I did it. I did a really good job. I've only had Husqvarna embroidery machines myself. My first embroidery machine, I don't know, you can't see it. It was a sort of a mid-range Husqvarna machine. It's called a, oh, I need to do this that way. So yeah, I've been embroidering with that machine, I think about 8 years. And when I took it in to be serviced a couple of years ago now, they had a floor model of an Epic 1 that they had on a really good price, because the Epic 2 was just about to come out. And I made puppy dog eyes at my husband, and he nearly caved and bought it for me. Then he said, but hang on, why is it so cheap? So the guy said, well, it's because the Epic 2 is about to come out. My husband said, but wouldn't you rather have the Epic 2 then? Yeah, shock, amazement. And I got an Epic 2, and I was a very happy girl. It's an absolutely fabulous machine. Like I say, I haven't actually used other embroidery machines, so I can't say from experience, but the stitch quality on Husqvarna's is just amazing. As for my camera equipment, I'm actually just using my iPhone. I'm actually using 2 iPhones at the same time. I have a DSLR, and when my DSLR was about 2 years old, it was one of the first iPhone cameras. iPhones came out with one of the really good cameras, and I realized that my phone actually took better photos than my DSLR, and I just have never upgraded my DSLR. I just stopped using it. I pretty much just use my phone for everything. I only pull it out when I want, because I've got one of those big telescopic lenses I inherited from my father. So yeah, I just use my phone. I do all my videos. I use my phone for those. I do have microphones and stuff, but I didn't think it was necessary for this Facebook Live. But I use those. Oh, I shouldn't have thrown my tape away. So yeah, I have microphones when I'm recording my my videos to go with like my patterns and stuff, because I find that the sound is better because like you get my voice rather than just the machine the whole time. So you'll have to let me know what the sound is like on this, because it's my first sewing live, so I don't actually know how it's going to sound. So I'll be interested to go. Okay, I should probably show you. Just working away here. So I have trimmed the batting. So I've got about a 5mm seam allowance. You do want to leave that 5mm. Don't try and cut it all the way in, because when you get the construction, it's going to be about 5mm away from that line. So you want the batting to go all the way up to that line, but not kind of beyond. So don't be over eager and cut it all the way off. Leave about 5mm to 1/4 inch and you should be good. Okay, next we're going to be stitching the cut line, so you're going to see where to cut the heart out so you get it the right size to fit onto the front. And I find that the batting half under the fabric, the fabric likes to rise up, so I put quite a bit of tape on just to make sure it stays put. So I don't really have any free videos. I think that's something I want to look into more this year, getting my YouTube going. Currently the videos I have are I do bag patterns as well. So sorry, those are the videos I was talking about. The finished mitts are, I'll tell you, just about 7 1/4 inches from there to there, and just under 7 inches from top to bottom. I've got quite big hands, and I find that that's about the right size for me. I certainly wouldn't want it any smaller, maybe a little bigger, but that to me is comfortable. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall off my hand while I'm using it. Okay, keep my tape this time. Okay, so that's the hoop. It has just stitched out an outside line there, and that is the line I'm going to cut on. Unhoop it. And I'm going to cut on that line. Don't cut inside the line. Just kind of cut just to the outside line or on the line. This will bring it so it's now the same size as the heart we're going to embroider for the front, so that it's important to kind of get the right size so that you can line it up properly when we add it on. My pattern website, I sell on Etsy. My business is called Elaine's Sweet Life. I have a Facebook page and I sell on Etsy. I don't yet have my own website. Hoping to do that at some point, but I have to figure out the VAT. Just not in the mood for working that out just yet. Whereas Etsy, Etsy takes care of the VAT for me, so I don't have to worry about it. So that's something I'll have to tackle at some point. Okay, so that is the back of the mitt. And now we're going to make the front. Okay, so again I'm hooping I guess for that piece you could actually hoop that with a cutaway because it's not seen anyway. It'll be completely enveloped, so you could actually use a cutaway for the back, but I guess I don't know if it's safe for heat and that kind of thing, so I just stick to my wash away. Okay. Yeah, just need enough to get a pin in on that side. Again, if you didn't see this earlier, the way I keep my stabilizer from slipping out the hoop, especially because there's very little stabilizer sticking out, is I use the pin method, where you just kind of put a pin backwards and forwards across the top of the hoop, and that just stops it from sinking into the hoop. Can't remember where I first saw that tip, but it's quite helpful. I don't do it all over because I find that the top and bottom ends of my hoop, I never have any slipping there. It's just these longer sides. Ouch. Have you really sewn if you haven't pricked your finger at least once? Okay. I'm going to change my thread to black again. Hopefully I'll remember to change it back to white. So you can see those first few stitches. Okay, I just need to so I'm going to be using the Heart Midfile now. Or it's the Heart Mitt Quilted, I think I called it. Okay. So the first thing it's going to stitch out is the heart outline again. Oh, let me get my... Well, I don't know if it's properly bent, but it's the way I do it. Okay, so Frankie, you can use Insel Bright. I didn't happen to have any Insel Bright. This was a bit of a last minute snap decision to make this. So I've used Wrap and Zap, I think this is. I've ordered some Insel Bright. Yes, Insel Bright. I've actually ordered it for my actual swap thing I'm going to be doing. But for this purposes, I'm using Wrap and Zap. I think Insel Bright is a bit more heat resistant than this one. I'm just going to trim those threads on the back. For ease of instructions, there's a step between here. So now it's going to give me the placement line for my first piece of fabric. This is a Husqvarna Designer Epic 2. It's service time for my machine, so the cutter is a bit blunt and not working so well at the moment. Oh, I'm gonna have to just pop my bobbin out. This poor machine gets used so much. Blade gets absolutely blunt by the end of the year. Okay. Oops. So pull it up. Okay. So now this is probably the trickiest. Press it up. There we go. Can you see? There we go. That should work. Okay. So that's the fabric placement line. So you're actually going to place the fabric. So this is for the left side of the heart. With the right side of the fabric outside, you're going to place your folded piece of fabric there along that line. And you're going to make sure it needs to be quite close to the heart on this end. So you got your about a 6 mil at the end of the heart to make sure that the top of the heart here gets covered completely by the fabric, because again you're going to get a little bit of pulling in, so you want to make sure it's overlapped. And you should just see that little black line, whatever color it is you're using, in that fold. Then I'm going to just tape the bottom part of the fabric, not the top. So fold it open and just tape that side. And then I'm going to flip this open like so. And I'll tape the other side. So that line that you finger pressed down the center of, that line that's finger pressed down the center follows that line that was embroidered before. And then it's going to tack down, and it's going just inside that line. So that first line that you put down, it'll actually get cut out. It won't be in the final item. And this is where I'm going to change from black, because I don't want black. When I made this one, I actually used white thread for this next step, for the next 2 steps, because obviously white fabric, you're going to see that you might see the threads through. So I use white fabric, white cotton. But red will be fine, it's not going to show any strangeness through. So I'm just going to put in white and use that for the rest of the mitt. I might change it to red for the final construction. Okay, so now it's going to tack down the fabric. Okay. Trying to do it so you can see. It's confusing me. So now you can see there's that line going down there. Now we're going to take our one of our pieces of batting, and you're going to put it to the left side of the heart, and just up to that line that was embroidered, it should completely cover your piece of fabric, like so. I don't tape that in place because it's not really going to move. So I get quite fussy about pulling the threads through here because, as I said before, the embroidery is actually visible on the back of the flap. So I don't want lots of sort of tangled ends. So I pull them all through. Okay, I'm going to take the tape off of that piece of fabric, if I can see it, and we're going to fold it over. So we're folding it back over to the left side of the heart. And tape it down again. Now if you were doing the paisley front, it would just do the outside of the heart on the left side, and that would be the end. Because I'm doing the diamond quilted one, it's now going to do that diamond quilting on the left side of the heart. I can't watch and not touch. Got to pull my thread through, didn't I? Okay. So now this is a slightly tricky part again. We're going to trim the batting again to a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So this is where having little scissors with a nice long tip is quite useful. So you can get right in there. Make sure you're not cutting either the front of the fabric or the back of the fabric. It's only the batting you want to be cutting. Again, make sure you leave your 5mm 1/4 inch seam allowance. Don't cut it too far back. It doesn't have to be perfectly neat. The seam kind of takes care of any sort of fuzzy bits that might be hanging on. Oops. Okay, this is probably the hardest bit because it goes right down inside there. But I just kind of shove my scissors down there. Try not to cut the fabric. Okay, so you can see I've cut that all the way around. And I have gone right down into there as well. Okay, you don't need to go, if it doesn't quite go all the way, it's fine, because you'll see the back is doesn't kind of go straight where the ribbon is, so you do have a little bit of leeway there as well. Okay, now we're going to do the right half of the heart exactly the same as we just did the left side. I'm not going to change my thread this time though, so hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. That's a good idea, Melanie. I hadn't actually thought of that. I'm quite new to in the hoop. I think I probably made my first in the hoop item last year sometime. I've done freestanding lace and all sorts of embroideries, but somehow I just completely missed the in the hoop boat until more recently. So yeah, that's a good idea. I have to think of some things I can do. Maybe a book cover or something like that. Okay, so that one's a bit harder to see, but it's just done that line there. So we're going to do the same process again. This is the folded piece of fabric. So this was the one that was cut 7 by 8 inches, and then you fold it in half so that you get 7 by 4. And we're going to bring it up to that line. And then tape just the underneath fold. Fresh tape. Okay. So I've taped just underneath, so we can now fold that open so it lays flat. Again, make sure that it is completely covering your heart. Or just the right side of the heart. Yeah, it's I think it's quite addictive. I'm loving it as well. In the hoop is fun. It's quite funny because I went to the embroidery retreat in September, and I did a zipper pouch. Now I'm a bag maker and a bag designer, but it was the first time I'd ever done a zipper as a in the hoop project, which was quite funny. So that was fun. Okay, so now we're going to place our other piece of batting. So we're bringing it right up to that line that just got stitched, and it should line up with the other sides of that piece of fabric. So it'll just sit there. There's my bobbin. It's got stuck around that catcher hook. Cord round. And everything's come out. Stay. Hi Anne, welcome. Okay. Oops, try that again. Put some of this thread back. I hate wasting thread. There we go. Might have to turn the cutter off. Yeah. I'm just going to cut it off, turn it off. Open it up again. Sorry about that, guys. All tangled around the cutter. That's from the back. Okay. Right, where were we? Okay, so now I've got to fold the fabric back over. So the batting's sandwiched in between again. A couple of pieces of tape to hold it down. straight. And now again, if you're doing the paisley version, it will just do the outside of the heart. But this is now going to do the quilting. Oh, I haven't taken my bobbin up. It's going to stop now each time because I've turned the cutter off. So now we're going to put our ribbon on. So I'm using this cotton tape and I have glued the ends so that they don't fray. So I'm just going to fold it in half. And I'm going to align the cut ends of the ribbon with the ends of the fabric. And the folded end of the ribbon goes in towards the heart. And I'm going to make sure it's as centered as I can manage between those two. Tape it at the top. Tape it at the bottom. Okay, I'm just going to secure the ribbon. Okay, now we're going to be adding the fabric to the back. So our last piece of fabric, which is 8 by 8.5. We're going to turn our hoop over. And this is going to go face down. way. And make sure that it completely covers the heart embroidery all the way around. So this is right side down. Always put it on a flat surface, turn it over, and then just rub the tape on a bit, make sure it's stuck. So you can see now it's wrong side showing on the back. And if you look from the front, that would be the right side of the fabric. Take that piece of tape off. I should really have taped this, but just make sure your fabric stays reasonably flat. Don't get your fingers in the way. Oh, I haven't trimmed the batting. Thankfully I caught it before it had sewn too much through the batting. Okay, it's going to trim that batting a bit more tricky here. So I should have done that before I added the ribbon. So that's trimmed all the way around, and since I've got it out, I will put some tape on so I can keep my fingers out the way. Okay, so that's all taped up now. Where are my scissors? Oh, I need to back it up a few spaces. Pull the bobbin through again. There are 2 files. The back is 1 file, and then everything I've done in this hooping is 1 file. And yes, it's each step is a different thread code. So there's in this one there's 12 thread changes. In the back there are 3 color changes, and in the paisley version there's 13 color changes. So the colors are kind of just arbitrary, so you can use whatever colors you want. So the colors given are literally just to create a stop for the next stage. That was done. Okay, now we are going to add our back. I think that's the right step. Yep, step 12. The paisley version would have had an extra step just before adding the ribbon to do the paisley embroideries. Okay, fits nicely. So I'm going to pull that out so we don't have, oh, it's fine, it's not much. Where is my double-sided tape? I'm going to use just a few pieces of double-sided tape to make sure it doesn't shift. This is a wash-away double-sided tape, so if it gets into the seam, it'll just wash out. So I'm kind of trying to put it in the seam allowances, so just inside that line that's just stitched. This one doesn't want to come off. Did you step already? There is a full PDF instruction. It's like 7 pages with photos for every step. So hopefully you'll be able to follow that. But I mean, if you ever have any questions, I'm always on the other side of a phone, so you're welcome to ask. Okay, so I'm going to place that now face down on top. Should have just taken it out in the first place. Okay, my one is just ever so slightly narrower, so I'm just going to try and center it as best I can. Okay, so then my back is stuck on, and now it's going to do the very last stage, which puts it together, and I'm actually going to change my thread to red. Oh, apparently my brain stops working when I'm doing live. I didn't click my hoop in. So now it's actually going to go from the edge up, and it's going to go around to the other side and then go back down to the edge. I like to add that in because it just makes the turning a little bit neater. And it's actually doing a bean stitch now, which is just a little bit stronger. So you've got a nice secure seam around. In the hoop work done. Okay, so I'm actually going to take this off. A little more space to show you what I'm doing. So we're going to take it out of the hoop now. Now I can see that just along there, that's my turning opening. I haven't quite trimmed enough of the stabilizer away, the batting, sorry. So I'm kind of just going to go in there. I'm just going to cut through the stabilizer, so I don't have to disrupt the stitching. Okay, so you can see I've now exposed the batting, and I'm just going to cut that a little bit closer because it's easier to close that gap if you don't have too much batting in the way. And get a slightly sort of straighter edge on it. And it just helps to get a neater finish. So you can see that's a lot neater now. Now I'm going to cut it out. Again, leave a little bit extra where the opening is, because it's easier to turn that seam allowance in if you've just left a bit more. And be careful not to cut your ribbon off. I can't tell you how many times I've done Christmas decorations and cut them out and discovered I no longer have a ribbon. Okay, so I still have a ribbon at the top, and you can see I've left a bit extra at the turning gap. And I have also put double-sided tape where the turning gap is, so I just got to remove that. Okay, then you want to clip or notch your seam allowances for the curves and for the point at the end. So I'm going to just trim the point, being very careful not to get too close to the stitches. And then for these curves, I'm going to take the lazy route. I wouldn't do this for things that'll take heavy wear, like bags where there's a lot of tension on these seams, but there's not going to be any tension on these particular seams. So I'm just going to use my pinking shears, but I don't cut right up. Can you see it's a reasonable distance from the stitching, so I'm not compromising that seam allowance at all. And again, be careful not to cut your ribbon, especially if you've used the cotton tape, because it does fray really, really easily. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut into those two corners there. Again, not cutting the ribbon. So I'm going to do one side and then I'll go back and do the other side. So I've done that side of the ribbon, and I'm going to do the other side. Okay, and now we can turn it around. Should go through reasonably easily. Okay. Now I'm going to remove this bit of stabilizer that's there. And you'll see there's that little line of stitching. You can see the black one on this side more clearly. I'm actually going to cut that off. If you don't, after you've washed it with the wash away stabilizer, that will come loose. So that will actually cut away completely or come off completely. Not too fussy about cutting it off perfectly, because again, I've used wash away stabilizers, so it'll take care of itself. Okay, so there we have the inside. Now for this turning gap, you can turn it in and then top stitch all the way around. I quite like to hand sew it closed, just because I feel it's a bit more sort of puffy if you haven't sewn around the edges. But a tip I do have is I actually use a bit of fabric glue, and I fold these edges over and I actually glue them down, because that way I can make sure that they follow the line nicely, and then it makes it a lot easier to hand stitch it neatly. So kind of just go through here, get into there. I'm not gluing the hole closed, I'm literally just gluing the 2 flaps down. So I just put a little bit, oh, you can't see, on the inside of that flap, and I can turn it round and make sure that I'm getting that kind of, that distance there even. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm kind of just going to put the glue along the edge of the, oh, can you see in there? Just along that edge of the batting. And then I can fold that edge over the batting. And then when I come to actually do my hand stitching in there, you can see it's sitting quite neatly already. I just find that helps me get a really nice edge on kind of fiddly little things like this. You'll also notice the ribbon, the way it's stitched on, that's not a mistake, that is correct, because I don't like the ribbon kind of flapping around and getting in the way when I'm actually using it as a hot pad. So that way you can keep that sort of towards the back of the hot pad while you're using it, but then it hangs really nicely as well. So yeah, I guess that's the hot pad done. There's the coordinating one, so both are included. In the Sew and Swap group, I've only uploaded the PES files because I didn't want to completely overrun the group files. So if you need something other than PES, please feel free to just message me and I can get that to you. Are there any questions? Anything you want to know? Okay, that's good then. Okay, so I will save the video so that you can watch it again later, or if you haven't seen the whole thing, you can go back and watch it. Oh, thanks, Deb. Deb says that it's useful seeing that the ribbon is supposed to be like that because she thought she'd made a mistake. Yeah, that is the way I designed it. So I hope you enjoy using my pattern. Please share what you make with them. I love to see what people make. And yeah, I hope to see lots of posts of all your lovely heart-shaped. Oh, just to add, this was kind of for the Sew and Swap group. The reason why we did heart-shaped oven mitts was because of Valentine's coming up, and that's why I kind of went with the red and white theme as well. So it's a nice, if you like to have a theme in your kitchen, that's a nice one for Valentine's Day. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy making them. See you again soon.